ScrubGames. It's ScrubGames. Double up. Drop a like, drop a sub, go ahead and subscribe to ScrubGames. Drop a like, drop a sub, go ahead and subscribe to ScrubGames.
How's it going, Scrub Gamers? Welcome back to another video here at ScrubGames, and today we have my next deck of the week. So a deck that I've been testing and having a lot of fun with. And for this week it's Double Red Vader, because I do really like Vader. He's been he's been one of my favorite leaders since the beginning of the set, beginning of the game. And yeah, he did get outshadowed when we got Boss. What he wanted to try and do in both control and mid-range, Boss kind of does a little better due to like bounties and how Boss operates and the fact that you can deploy a little bit earlier. But then with set 3, Boss still continues to be outshadowing, almost similar to how Boba did for a lot of the cunning Villainy leaders. But Vader does have some key things that he can kind of do, and that is represented in Double Red as well, being something that you can do a little bit better than Bosk. Now, before we get into the video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It keeps you updated with my videos as and when they drop, and by clicking that notification bell, you can then get alerts to when videos do drop, so you can watch them at a later time, or whenever you want to suit you. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and check out my list for Double Vader. Well, no, sorry, not Double Vader, but Double Red Vader. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off looking at the leader and the base, because we're going for the set 1 star deck Vader. So he's a aggression and villainy, so the reason it's double red is because we've got a red base with the red leader. And he's got the nice ability to just basically ping damage, kind of like red's aggression. Aggression's kind of aspect, like identity, is fully shown in Vader because he's all about like throwing out damage. But when he's in the lead area, he is all about needing to play something and also pay out a resource deficit, so we can actually go ahead and trigger his effect, because his effect is an action whereby paying 1 and tapping him. If you played a villainy card this phase, so you need to play something to trigger it, you can deal 1 damage to any unit. So if you any unit on board, and then 1 damage to a base. So it's nice with this effect. This is why I kind of prefer Vader a little bit, because you can get that damage to base. So you're kind of progressing the game forward to try and win by doing the damage to base, but also pinging damage on some things as well. And also, the one downside is that if your opponent doesn't control any units, like say they haven't been playing any units, or you just been taking them out, then if you have units, you have to do damage to your own units. So do better than mine. There might be times when you might not pull off the effect because you don't want to ping your own damage. Well, ping damage to your own unit, and there you might not use the effect. But if there's no units on board, you just do a damage to base. If there's a unit on board, you have to do a damage to it, because it's not you can choose to do a damage, it's you have to do a damage to a unit. So if you only you have units, you have to damage your own. And when he deploys, which is quite late at 7, so he is a quite late deploying leader, which is why one thing that Boss kind of has over him, where Boss deploys at 5 resources, whereas Vader deploys at 7, which is quite late. And because we're not playing any ramp, we're not going to get there quickly. We have to wait until that eventually comes. He comes down at a whopping 5 power, which is very, very good, and 8 health, which is very, very nice. And then on attack, he can deal 2 damage to a unit, so he's throwing out more damage. You can get 3 damage on units the turn he's on his deploy turn, and it's just really nice to just hit hard at base and then throw damage out to finish some things off as well that you might chip down as well. So we've got that nice thing going for him. It's a really nice, cool leader. And then we're playing with Tarkin Town with it, so we would normally you would think about playing a 30 health base, but then Tarkin Town is one of those bases which didn't see the most use, did see a good amount of use, but not the most use in the beginning of the game's life. But then as the meta changed up with sets coming out and like things getting suspended, then Tarkin Town kind of got viable a bit more and became one of the more popular bases that are res. Because the fact that it can just do 3 damage to a damage on the unit, mean you can just pivot and control the board state and just take control. And we're going to incorporate that with Vader, because you might as well use, like, you got no healing, so even if you're taking damage, you might as well have a good effect on the base, and you're trying to throw out damage anyway, so we might as well go for the Target Town to get good use of the base, and the 5 health is going to make some difference in the games, but the effect kind of outweighs it since you can ping damage even on the first of the game to take control like most town decks do. So that is the leader and base. Now let's have a look at the list and start off with the units like we normally do. So first of all, we'll go off with our turn 1 plays. We've got Death Star Stormtrooper and TIE LN Fighter. So these are both very fragile units at 1 health, but they both cost 1 and have a good amount of power, with Death Star Stormtrooper having 3 power, whereas the space unit has 2 power. So decent amount of power, but very fragile. It means like a tiny little bit of damage and it's going to be taken out, so you have to be wary of that. But the nice thing about it is a very cheap unit, and also they allow you to both play a unit and trigger Vader's effect, ping damage to base any unit on turn 1. But if your opponent doesn't play a unit, then you might not want to do the damage because otherwise you have to do damage to them, and they're going to be taken out by that 1 damage. So do bear that in mind to make sure your opponent does play a unit before doing the ping damage while also playing these. These allow you to both play out something on board and also do some damage. We play 3 each of these to have some good turn 1 plays. Then next we've got our turn 2 plays, and we only got 2 of them. Not turn 2 plays exactly, because one of them you don't really want to play. It depends when you want to play it. But our 2 cost plays, and we got Kylo's TIE Silencer and Snowtrooper's Lieutenant. So these are pretty nice. Like the Kylo TIE Silencer is kind of like an anti-hand control thing, where if your opponent makes you discard a card, you can discard it instead, and they can play it for your discard. Nice benefit of that. And it's got some pretty nice stats. A 2 cost with 3 power and 2 health. So it's basically a Stormtrooper. Just costs 1 more and has 1 more health, and has the anti-hand control effect. Then we have the Snowtrooper Lieutenant. We got free copies of this. We only got 2 of the TIE Silencer because I was trying to balance out space. And what's a pretty good unit. I didn't feel too many like I do. I prefer to have 2 of that and 1, also 3 of the 1 cost one, because it allows more turn 1 plays that can actually trigger Darth Vader as well to ping, and also still doing a good amount of damage. And then with the Snowtrooper Lieutenant, this is a 2 cost 2/2. And he has a nice effect where when played, you can attack with a unit that's an Imperial, and attack with a unit, and if it's an Imperial, you get an extra 2 power for that attack. So it makes good use of both Death Star Stormtrooper and TIE LN Fighters instead of both Imperial cards. So you can also play one of those turn 1, trigger Vader effect, then play this to allow them to attack for a little bit more. So like the Stormtrooper swing for 5, whereas the space unit swing things for 4, and then you can also still on the same turn ping the damage for Vader as well, trying to get a good play in, then also ping damage every turn with Vader to kind of chip away. And the only problem is with the Snowtrooper Lieutenant is that if you have nothing on board that's a Imperial, you're not going to get the benefit of this, so you do have to watch out for that. But then you've also got more of the 1 cost units, and also Kylo's TIE Silencer. Then for our 3 costs, we've got a few. We've got 5th Brother, we've got Cell Block Guard, and we've got General Veers. So these are pretty nice in the fact that they're the 3 cost play. So when you go to your turn 3, you're going to be able to play them and trigger Vader, and they offer nice things. So like Cell Block Guard is a Sentinel. It's no way as great as the Phase 3 Dark Trooper, because it doesn't really have an effect outside of being a 3 cost 3/3 at Sentinel. But it's a nice dark card, but Sentinel in the ground arena that can then allow Vader to ping when you play it on your turn 3. General Fear is a nice one because just like with the benefits of like the Snowtrooper benefiting the Imperials, so does he. He gives all other Imperials an extra 1/1 power. So 1/1 to the stats, so 1 power, 1 health, making them a little bit bulky and a little bit stronger, which is cool, and even affects Vader because Vader is Imperial. And then we got 5th Brother, so one of our Force kind of cards, kind of make use of some of the Force cards we've got in there. And he's a pretty nice one because he can also allow to kind of ping some damage to a unit by damage himself. And the more damage he takes, the stronger he gets when he swings. And he can basically just add that to himself as well. So very nice one, and allows some like I said, benefits of the Force packages. Moving up the cost now, we've then got 2 copies of Asajj Ventress. So you might be thinking, why is this in X? It's not the strongest. It's it's not the strongest unit, especially for a 4 cost. But it's more because she is a Force unit and also has exploits. So you can technically play out 3 by killing off 2 other units, which you didn't always want to do, but you can kind of do, or at least just kill off 1, like say something you've already attacked with that's soon to die, or will probably end up dying, to play a little bit cheaper. So you can have a Force unit out, so you can then go ahead and get some of those Force benefits. Now, effect isn't going to be really relevant because you don't really have a Separatist. Your Separatists are her and higher costing cards, so not really going to pull it off. It'd be more there for the Force trait, so you can kind of like use Force throw and stuff like that and get the full benefit of it. So you've got 2 copies of that, and also she's a dark unit as well, so you can essentially play her out and also still trigger Vader. Then we've got another unit. We got the 5-cost unit being 7th Sister, 2 copies of this. Because it's a very nice unit, a 5-cost 3/6. 3/6 is pretty nice because it means it's out the way of takedown at 6 health, and then out the way of things like Follow Dragon stuff due to having 3 power. And also has Saboteurs, so you can ignore Sentinels and stuff like that. And then when you do deal damage with her by attacking its base, you can then throw 3 damage to a ground unit, so you can do a bit more damage as well and avoid those Sentinels, which is really, really useful. So we only got 2 because she's quite high costing, and usually you might want to have a different combination, but usually you want to have something to play every turn, at least 1 dark unit, so you can trigger Vader to get the ping damage to a unit and also to their base as well. Then we've got 3 copies of Ruthless Raider, very, very good card, and also another dark card you can play, so on the turn you deploy Vader, you can drop this and ping the damage and then deploy Vader. And it's just a really handy card because it comes down pretty solid stats, just like with 7th Sister. Out the way of takedown and out the way of things that fell the dragon, and then also has its effect triggers both when it's played and when it's defeated. So it deals 2 damage to the base and more damage to throw into the base, and also 2 damage to one of their units if you could choose which one. So you can actually take something out that's weak, take something down that's like low statted, or just ping some damage to something so you can just throw a bit of damage so you can finish them off with like say Vader and stuff like that. 3 copies is good because it just means it helps against, especially against high control, because you can keep dropping knees and force them to do some damage if they take it out, force to do more damage, just throw damage at the base until you hopefully win the game. And 3 copies is a very good reason for that. Then we skip 7 and go straight to our 8 drops. So we've got Palpatine and we've got Count Dooku. Now I was going to have just 2 Palpatine because just having 8 drop that comes down, throw 6 damage around is very handy, but they both serve pretty nice purposes because, like I said, with Palpatine, it's 8 costs, very high costing, 6/6 on its stats, but also gets to throw out 6 damage when he's played, and you can choose how you want to throw that around. So it's good for the turn after you've deployed Vader, throw it down, finish whatever's on board, and then be able to hit hard, and also as everyone, so it can pierce damage through units too, which is very handy. And we got Dooku because he's got the same kind of cost and stats, but he can play it a little bit cheaper because he's got Exploit. So it means you can sack off some of your old, some of your weak, every unit's on board just to play them out a little bit earlier. So you can play them up either potentially 6 or 4, depending on how many units you exploit. And if you do exploit units, it triggers as when played, where for each unit you do exploit while playing this card, you can deal damage to an enemy unit equal to the power of the exploit unit. So, and the minimum you're going to get is 2. Or up to potentially 3 and stuff. The nice thing about this is that if you've got 2 Ruthless Raiders on board, like when you get your turn, potentially turn 8 after Vader, 8 resource turn after Vader, if you play 2 Ruthless Raiders, you can then get some attacks with those Ruthless Raiders and then trigger them by using Count Dooku. And the nice thing about Count Dooku is he's a Force unit as well. So one of the great things you can do is say play out a unit on turn 1, a unit on turn 2, and then after that, when you get to your 4 resource play on turn 3, you can sack off those units after they've swung, and then play out Dooku, who then will do damage to things, and then hits the Force unit, so you can start using all your Force cards and benefits, and also 6/6, that early is quite nice. So it's a benefit of having Dooku, just one. I would potentially, I have potentially thought about maybe switching out the Palpatine for another Dooku, or the Dooku for more Palpatines, but they both serve a nice purpose each, so I kept one of each of them. And that is all the units we play. So we didn't play any more units, that's all of them. Now we're going to have a look and see about the upgrades, because there are some upgrades here. So we only got 2 upgrades, and that is Vader's lightsaber and Fallen lightsaber. So both lightsaber ones. So just like how blue has the Jedi lightsaber and stuff, red has the Fallen lightsaber, and then just like how Luke has his lightsaber, Vader has his. And it's very nice. So Vader's lightsaber is a simple 2-cost upgrade that gives an extra 3 power to a unit and 1 health. Can't put it on a vehicle, but outside of the stats, he doesn't offer anything else unless the unit is attached to Vader. And if it is attached to Vader, it's got when played where you can deal 4 damage to a ground unit, which means you can finish off. So you can throw a lot of damage out from Vader's deployed turn with just things like this, like Vader's lightsaber and stuff like that, which is really cool. So like, and also boosting him up from a 5.8 to an 8.9 is pretty strong. And if you want to throw more on top of that, you can throw Fallen Lightsaber on, which gives an extra free to the stats for a cost of 3, which is the nice thing about the lightsaber upgrades is they offer some really good stats to their cost, because normally it's a free cost to give free to the stats plus an extra benefit. And for the Fallen Lightsaber, if it's attached to a Force unit, which currently is only 5th Brother, Asajj, 7th Sister, and then Emperor Palpatine, Dooku, and also your leader, so a good majority, but they're more high costing, then you get to deal 1 damage to a ground unit when attacking, and deal 1 damage to each ground unit the defender player controls when you attack. So this pairs very nice with Vader being on a swing, ping 1 damage to everything on the ground that your opponent controls, with Fallen Lightsaber, and an extra 2 damage from Vader's on attack. And if you get both these upgrades thrown on to your leader, it turns them from a 5.8 to a 11.12, which is pretty strong, pretty strong. And remember also, Fallen Lightsaber isn't a unique upgrade, so you can throw multiple onto cards or even to Vader. But do remember that in some matchups, these are ones that you can potentially side out. Vader's Lightsaber is one you can easily side out if you feel like you're not going to get to the point where you're going to use it and put it on Vader. And Fallen Lightsaber, sometimes it's easy side out slot if it's not going to be used. Like if it's hard control, it's unlikely you're going to put this on a unit, keep it there for a while. It's not going to be taken out due to controls many removal cards. So do bear that in mind. So that's the 2 upgrades. Now we're going to the rest of the cards, which are our events. So we'll start off with our cheap events. Our 1-cost events we have are Given to Your Anger, Force Lightning, Force Throw, and Dare and Raid. So most of these events probably make sense, and you can probably see what they do. Like Dare and Raid is a simple 1-cost event that allows you to deal 2 damage to either a unit or a base. So either adds more damage to your opponent's base to kind of help try and finish them off quicker, or 2 damage to kind of help finish off a unit, or even damage it maybe for Tarkin, or to be in tandem with Vader. Just remember, it's not a dark event, so you can't use it to trigger Vader. But it can still do 2 damage to either finish something off, or just throw more damage to your opponent's base, so you can kind of go harder into the aggro route. You also got Force Throw and Force Lightning. These are both Force cards that get good events, with at least Force Lightning, Trigger and Vader to be able to ping a damage to a base in a unit. But if you go into a Force unit, which is what we got a fair few in, you can get them extra benefits. Like with Force Throw, it's a simple you choose an opponent, and that player discards a card from hand. But if you control a Force unit, you can then deal damage to a unit equal to the cost of that discarded card. So the nice thing about this is you can discard your own cards to guarantee how much damage you're doing if you control a Force unit, or just make your opponent discard, and then damage is dependent on what they discard. But remember, if you do make your opponent discard, it's likely you're going to discard the cheapest or most useless card in their hand out. And most of the time, if you can do damage, then you're mostly going to throw out their cheapest cards so you don't do too much damage. Anyway, Force Lightning is nice one because you can choose a unit, and it loses all its abilities for this phase, so has basically it's a skill-loss card. But then if you control a Force unit, you can then play an additional number of resources and then deal 2 damage to that chosen unit for each resource you played this way. So every resource counts as an extra 2 damage. So if you want to take out, say, a Luke, that's got 7 health. If you pay 5 for this, so 1 for initial cost, an extra 4 additional resources, you can then do 8 negate skills and do 8 damage to it. So a really handy card there. And once again, like I said, it can help ping damage, but then we only have 2 copies because you need a Force unit on board, but sometimes it can be useful to negate skills. Like if your opponent's got a Great Dragon for some reason, so you got that point when you got to that, you can just go negate the skills on it. It do 1 damage to other your base or units, but then it's got those skills, you have to worry about burning it for the rest of it. And also you've got nice ways to kind of take out things that might have when defeated effects, because you can just turn that off and be like, yeah, it's going to be defeated. There's more the fact that it's like when you deploy Vader, it could be a way to do a lot of damage to something that your opponent might have buffed off. And then we've got 2 copies of Given to Your Anger. Now this is an event they probably never saw played, or never really see, because it's a 1-cost event from set 2. Now what it does is deal 1 damage to an enemy unit, and then after that, the controller's next action has to be, well, for that phase, has to be attacking with that unit that you used on, and if able, they must attack into, if able, and then if you've got a unit, they must attack that unit. So essentially, you ping a damage to a unit for 1, and then that unit has to attack for the next action your opponent takes. And if you control a unit, they have to attack into your unit, otherwise they have to attack into your base. So it's a nice way to kind of force your opponent to attack into something with the next action into, well, if you've got a unit out, force them to attack to you with their unit that you pinged, or just be a one cost damage card that can then also trigger Vader. So you can use it as a way to ping a damage to a unit, force them to attack with it as well, so they don't do anything else after that, and then also go ahead and use Vader to ping. Like sometimes when if I haven't got their invade and they're on one damage left, I'm able to just go give to anger, force the attack with their weakest thing, and then go Vader, now ping a damage to base and a unit to finish the game kind of thing. So it's an extra way on turn 1 to kind of ping some damage to it, either trigger Tarkin Town, and also some extra damage. So if your opponent plays 5 cost card, you can always go give into your anger, ping a damage to it, 5 health card, ping a damage for giving to your anger, Vader ping a damage to that unit and a base, and then Tarkin Town finish it off. So you can do that, which is quite handy, especially when you get control and they drop a Pershing. You kind of want to go, no, I don't want to keep it there. I want to get rid of it. So you can do that as a way to get rid of it. But if you don't have that, you've got the next event, which is 2 costs, being Force Choke. And we've got full 3 copies of this, because this helps against those aggro decks to help keep those units aboard. Because while you might be giving them a card back, because when you use it on the card, the control of that card then draws a card. You don't care about them drawing a new card, you care about them removing things off board, so you can hold off to a later game where you can play more bigger things and just keep them from aggroing you. And especially with aggro decks like Sabine, you want to have this cheap way, just as soon as they deploy it, take out Sabine so it's no longer going to start throwing damage or get out of hand by having a Darksaber equipped to it. So it's a very cheap one, and also a nice thing about it is it can take out any, with Vader in combination, it can take out any leader that is 6 health, because you can do 5 damage with Force Choke, and an extra 1 damage with Vader, which is cool. So 6 health units, 6 health leaders can be taken out by this. It just gives them an action, so you can go ahead and attack with it. But then it means that you're guaranteeing to get rid of that leader there and then, which is cool. So 3 copies of this, and also it does cost 1 less if you control a Force unit, which you can do. So you can play 5th Brother and Force Choke on your turn 3, which is pretty nice. And yeah, it does 5 damage. But the only downside is it doesn't do any damage to vehicles. It's got to be a non-vehicle user on. So if your opponent plays a Space Worker stuff, you're then kind of screwed with this. Then we've got 3 copies of Fire. Now this is a dark card to trigger Vader, but it's still a very nice card because it's for 3 resources. Now you do 4 damage to a unit, kind of finish something off. This is a shame that isn't a dark card, so you can go ahead and trigger Vader, but that would be a bit too good if it was. Then you could just do 5 damage for 4, which is really nice. And then our last card is 3 copies of Aggression. Now, there's not much of a good reason to go double red, really, other than maybe you want Tarkin Town as your base, or the leader you're playing is red. Depends. Like, Tarkin Town's just a good benefit to having double red, but you can still go for a 30 health base. But Aggression is quite nice because it's not the best in terms of the double aspect events. It's probably the worst out of the 4. But it does still offer you some decent options, because the options are, remember, you can choose any 2 of the 4 options and resolve them however you choose. So you can either draw a card, which is quite nice, just draw a card. It's not the greatest, but you can draw a card as a bare minimum, so you've got at least 1 action where if you only need 1 of those, you can use draw a card as 1, as the other one, so then replace it in your hand. You've then got defeat 2 upgrades, so you've got upgrade removal built in thanks to Aggression, which is quite nice. So when it comes to, especially with next set, with the pilots and stuff, you've got ways to knock them off. And then you've got the ready units 3 less power, so you can ready a fair few of your cheaper units. So anything below the cost of 6, you can use to restand, as long as they're not upgraded with like a Fallen Lightsaber or anything like that. And then also you've got still 4 damage to units. You've got like open fire built into it. You've got a draw built into it from Force Choke. You've got readying, and then you've got upgrade defeating. So it's got a good amount of options. It's not the best compared to what the other double aspect events do, but still pretty nice ones, like the doing damage and drawing a card are what you're mostly going to do. Or if you don't want to just draw a card and need upgrade removal, you've got that built in as well. But it's mostly the damage, and then potentially either the draw or remove upgrades, depending on what the situation is like. But as a list, so kept it at 50 as well, to kind of keep it as consistent as possible. Like you could potentially next set change, not worry about Tarkin Town, but then go ahead and use what's it called, the Thermal Oscillator, to kind of then reduce the amount of cards in your deck by 5. Give yourself extra 2 health, but reduce the number of cards in your deck, so you've got more consistency in seeing what you want. Because less cards in the deck mean you've got more consistency of seeing what you want. so you can go for that. But also, they do get some nice cards in the next set for Vader, even with like no Disintegration is a very nice one, and never good removal event that allows you to put something within range of Vader. So from 4 races on, you can take out anything as long as it can be damaged, which is cool. So that's the main. And also do remember, I do like to put in sideboards as well, because sideboards, while they're more personal player, you might want to get some inspiration. So I do like to show mine, show what I've got to always build a sideboard, even if it's casual, because sometimes you want to play best of 3 games, have fun, enjoy those decks, so you can kind of have a chance maybe against competitive decks. So for the side deck, we've only got 5 cards in there, and as you can see, none of them are ones already from the side deck, so I would have forgot that probably. But the cards we've got 2 units in here. We've got the Confederate Tri-Fighter. Now, this is one just to stop healing against those blue decks, stop them from healing, so while you're throwing damage out, they can't heal it off. Now, it's probably not as great as Wolf, which basically just his effect is always in play. Whenever you play it or attack with it, it's just then can't be turned off, it's just in effect. But the nice thing about this one is, even though it costs a little bit more than Wolf, it's not just one turn dependent, it's just what sales on board it's about. It's a 3 cost 3/3, which is pretty good stats, and also it's a dark card, so if you pair it with Vader's ability, you can then ping damage to the base of the unit as well. Like, Wolf probably is a little bit better in terms of its cost and stats, and the fact that it can just be there for a turn, doesn't turn off. They have their benefits, Wolf and this, but this has a bit more benefits in being a dark card to trigger Vader, and then it's just they can't heal while it's on board, so you got to get rid of this before they can try healing, which with Wolf they can wait till the next turn, or the turn after Wolf's deployed or like triggered. Whereas this, they have to force to get rid of this, which can mean some other cards get left alone when they try to deal with this. So we've got 2 copies of that. We've also got 2 copies of Crate Dragon for against those very more harder control decks or longer games where your opponents go into the high resources and you can't kill them off too quickly. You can have Crate Dragon just throw down to be like, deal with this. It's huge dragon. It's going to throw damage to your base, hit hard as well, and makes you think about what you're going to do when it comes to playing cards, because then that damage is going to come down and just throw it as well. Now, against blue decks, this might be a little bit harder to keep around because they're just going to kill it, but at least force them to remove it rather than deal with what else you might have on board before you threw this down. So 2 copies of that for those later game card decks. Next, we've got 2 copies of Chaos Ward, another way to kind of do damage, and this one can do quite a bit or quite a little, depending on what's in hand, because it's a 3 cost event that allows you to deal damage to each player's base equal to the number of cards in that player's hand. So remember, it does affect you as well, so it's both players. So the more cards your opponent has in hand, the more damage it does. The less cards they have in hand, the less damage it does. And do remember that affects you. So if you're trying to use it to finish off the base, do count how many cards you have in hand, how much damage you got left on, or how much health you got left on your base, and just double check just in case that damage does take you out from what you have in hand as well. But a nice way to kind of do more damage and kind of maybe get a lot more damage with those decks that have a lot of cards in hand or try to hold off against you. Then we've got 2 copies of Pillage, so if you want to go through and you want to kind of have a bit of hand control against certain decks, you can go ahead and use Pillage. Just choose a player, ditches 4 cards or 2 cards from the hand. And what it is pretty nice. It depends on the matchup you have or you're against. If it's a deck that's kind of struggling to keep cards at hand, or you want to keep cards at hand so you can't have less to play, you can do that. But do remember that if you do anything sort of like hand control with things like this, you're going to go ahead and not be doing anything. So while you're ditching cards from hand, you're not really doing anything. So not advancing the board state, pushing damage to base. You're just making them lose cards at hand, so they have to think more about what they want to discard. Which, unless they're like a deck that needs all the cards in hand, is not really going to do much. But then this is one that could probably be switched out when we get the next set with Cham Syndulla, the one that gives red some ramp. So against those ramp decks, you can have Cham to go ahead and ramp yourself to kind of match the ramp your opponent has, or even main that card. We'll see how it goes with next set. The last card we've got is Execute Order 66. Now, this is a very nice one to get, but this is mainly one that's brought in against those Jedi focus decks, those leaders that have Jedis, because it's a nice way to kind of finish off those leaders. So when it comes to things like Quinlan, so Quinlan gets deployed on 5 resources. Yeah, 5 resources. And the nice thing about this is it allows you to do 6 damage to each Jedi unit yeah, each Jedi unit in play, which is only going to be your opponents, and then for each unit defeated this way, its controller creates a clone trooper token. So a nice thing about this is when your opponent has things like Anakin and Quinlan, and they have those units that have 7 health and are Jedi units. This is a nice way to play this, deal enough damage that doesn't kill those units, so they don't get a clone trooper token, but then are enough that then Vader can then finish that last damage unless they upgrade them. So a nice thing about this is if they deploy those leaders, you can then go ahead and use this to do 6 damage to those units. They won't be defeated, so they won't get a clone token. And then while they've got a chance to upgrade it or attack with it, you can then finish them off with Vader as long as they upgrade it, which is cool. Or depending on when they've deployed, you can then go ahead and throw more damage, like if it's against Anakin, and you go ahead and go, I'm going to throw down I deploy at 6, and I'm going to throw down a upgrade on it, like a Jedi lightsaber. You can then go ahead and then add to that, since you've got 6 resources, a force choke, so you can then go and deal the rest of the damage to take out Anakin. So they've deployed the leader, upgraded it, wasting resources to do that, and then you've taken it out with it took 2 cards to take it out, but you've taken out one of their cards that they've attached to it, and also dealt with the leader before you deploy yours. So that's a nice way to kind of do that. And remember, as long as the unit that it takes out isn't defeated, then you can go ahead and you won't give them any clone trooper tokens. And nice thing about this as well, if you're playing against blue, and they do those things where they like deploy their leader, and also like Obi-Wan, like I've seen it before about like with Rey, when they play out Obi-Wan and then deploy Rey, so that way you can't attack in to take out Rey straight away with a unit, and then if they do, Rey gets boosted. But the nice thing about this is they go Obi-Wan and then deploy Rey, you can order 6/6, take them both out because they both have 6 health, and they don't really get to. I might boost a token from Obi-Wan, which isn't too bad, and they get 2 tokens because you take out 2 of the units, but still you replaced a 4/6 and a 2/4 that's going to boost itself, or 2/6 is going to boost itself up into 2 tokens that you can then potentially just ping, well, at least ping damage to one of them with Vader, and then finish them off with other effects as well, or attacks as well. So I thought that's quite a nice card for against those like Jedi focus decks and leaders, because you're not taking them out, so you're doing 6 damage without giving them anything, just doing 6 damage before, and then able to ping them the last bit of damage, because most of them are like 7 health or lower. The only ones you don't really hit with this is Mace Windu and Yoda, which are even then deploying quite late, and then the turn they deploy, you can deploy Vader as well. So you can then do the same thing, damage them with this, ping them damage, then after they've swung, deploy Vader, swing, and finish them off. So that is the side deck. So some pretty nice cards. They can remember with this deck as well. This is one that can be upgraded with new cards for set 4. I'll maybe go for that in the comments, maybe if anybody's interested, or maybe do a new deck of the week profile with it when we do have it officially released in a couple of weeks. But yeah, that is it for today. Thank you for watching. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions or questions about the deck, feel free to comment as well. I'll answer as best I can, because I do like to answer the comments as soon as I can. Sometimes I'm a bit busy, but I'll answer as quickly as I can. But yeah, hopefully you can try it out. The deck link to try it out on Canvas will be down in the description. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next one. Bye for now.